Dr. Leesa Souto.
Good morning. It's really nice to be here. My name is Leesa Souto. I'm the Executive Director of Marine Resources Council. We're a nonprofit that's been trying to save the Indian River Lagoons since the early 80s. Our website's savetheirl.org. Go ahead and get that plug in. I am going to try to see, can you turn the clock a little bit, the timer towards me a little bit? Because I forgot my phone at home, so I can't time myself. I'm going to try to cover a program. It's been going on for a couple years now. It's called Be Floridian Now. It was started in Tampa Bay. It is a science-driven social marketing program. Social marketing is the part of environmental education that assumes that just because somebody knows something doesn't mean they're going to do anything about it. So it kind of assumes that even though there is a segment of society that will do the right behavior because they know it's the right thing to do, that there's a larger segment of society that knows the right behavior and won't do it, and there's a small part of society that doesn't even know it's the right behavior. So social marketing is about identifying what those barriers are, what's preventing them, even though they know it's the right thing to do, from doing the right thing, and identifying what those incentives might be. So Be Floridian Now was launched a couple years ago, and Marine Resources Council got some funding to do it here on the East Coast. Just to remind you about the ordinances that have now been passed in all 5 counties and 42 of the 44 municipalities, thanks to the hard work of a lot of the people in this room, that restrict the use of nitrogen from June 1 to September 30, restrict the use of phosphorus year-round, require 50% slow-release nitrogen from October to May, and establish a fertilizer-free setback from water bodies, and that varies in cities and counties based on ordinance. So the goals of this campaign are really specific to getting people to comply with the ordinance. So it focuses a lot on skipping the fertilizer in the summer, using just that reminder prompt, because we recognize that people aren't thinking about fertilizer at all. I've done 7 years of fertilizer research, trying to link behavior with knowledge and understand those motivators, and we know people aren't thinking about fertilizer. We got to remind them all the time. There's fertilizer ordinances in place. And then also, one of the big barriers is trying to instruct people about understanding if the fertilizer is 50% slow release. And then, as people start to move in the direction of sustainable landscaping, to direct them towards the resources that are available for them to diversify their landscape. The benefits are clear. We don't want our water to look like this. We're trying to reduce nutrient runoff, especially in the rainy season, and reduce the overall loads. I can't spend much time here. There was target audience research done by Salter Mitchell on the West Coast. That research identified our target as being homeowners who are fertilizing the lawns themselves, women aged 35 to 50, because it turns out from the research that women are often directing the men in the household to get out there and do the landscaping work. Is that true? And that there's a need to educate at the point of sale, so consumers at retail outlets. The targeting approach, what they were trying to do at Salter Mitchell, is the hardest thing you can do with social marketing. It's going from pre-contemplation, where the people aren't even aware there's an ordinance, to action. So this is a scheme that was developed by the social marketing designers, Nancy Lee and Philip Kotler and her crew. Came out of a book in 2002 where it goes through the steps of pre-contemplation. They don't even know it exists. They're thinking about it, contemplation, they're preparing to do it, then they're actually doing it, and then that maintenance part is what I described with fertilizing, where you have to remind them all the time. And really from one year to the next, they could forget that it exists again. So you almost have to start completely all over, remind people there's an ordinance, remind people what the ordinance is, remind people how they're going to calculate their 50% slow release. So we're going all the way from there to there. And that's not really what you want to do, but that's what the goal was with Be Floridian. They thought they could do it by making it super fun and super themey. So it's like Florida, and you have to have flamingos and be really, hitchkey kind of, make it fun. So the major themes of the campaign are protect our fun, putting that link between less fertilizer means cleaner water, means more fun. That's what we're here for, to have a good time on the water. Taking the summer off. So take the summer off, go out and enjoy the water, and don't pollute it. We have a team of people, includes 20 different partners that have contributed, looks like about over $150,000 to the campaign to date since 2014. These are the names of the individuals on that team. They include people from all 5 counties and a number of nonprofits and municipalities. The team's guidance has instructed the materials that we've prepared. They're also key to distributing it throughout the 5 counties, and I think that's really important. So MRC works 5 county-wide, so we're trying to reach 1.7 million people, and so we really need to rely on our partners to get the word out through events. So we've got flamingos, we've got a lot of materials. The next series of slides, I'm just going to fly through the materials that we've produced in the past year and a half. We've constructed some billboards. Even on the billboards, we're targeting different times of the year. This is our spring billboard, which reminds people summer's coming. Think about fertilizing now. We know from the research that most people fertilize in March and April. So right now is when we want to be in the retail stores, reminding people about the ordinance. So this is our billboard, summer's coming, now's the time to fertilize. And then summer, protect summer fun, going back to that protect fun again, skip the fertilizer this summer. BeFloridianNow.org is the website where all the information is. And then this is the billboard, now that summer's over, use your 50% slow release. Look for your Lagoon Friendly products list. We've invested a lot in digital and print ads, mostly down in the TC Palm newspapers. We've sent out there's been 1.5 million views in the ads, 1.8 million views online, 16% click-through. So our online advertising directs people to the website where they're taking a survey. This is our website homepage, very simple. We try to give people, when they're floridifying their yard, it goes to how much time do you have? So immediately it's like if you want to spend a day, if you want to spend a week, if you're ready to invest a month in your yard, you just there's buttons like that. I want to spend the afternoon, click. Here's some things you can do in an afternoon to floridify. Has a lot of, it also takes people to the survey that I mentioned. Trying to simplify compliant fertilizers. If you don't want to try to figure out the 50% slow release, here's the list. Print the list out, take it to the store. There's your compliant fertilizer list and where you can find it. The survey that I mentioned, I can't go into it in detail because I don't have enough time, but generally we're asking people where they are. What's interesting is we really haven't done much advertising here, and look at the number of people that responded from Brevard County, almost as many as we've seen in Martin County. The other thing that's interesting is, do you even know a fertilizer ordinance exists? And this is a high number. 44% is actually high compared to what we saw over on the West Coast. So it's good. So actually what I suspect is we have a non-representative visitor coming to our website. I suspect the general public would not be that high if we were doing a truly representative survey. Okay, so we have a pledge. That's a social marketing tool for people to pledge. And we have a coloring book for children. We're doing secret shopper surveys right now. I want to spend a little time here. We've got citizen scientists that we've trained to go out and do secret shopper surveys. They're going to retail stores and acting like they want to buy fertilizer to see what kind of a response they get from the salesperson. They've completed 23 surveys to date. We've had a lot of master gardeners involved in this down in Martin County in particular. Their purpose is to understand their level of knowledge, if there are any signs present, and if there are compliant products on the shelf. Some preliminary results show that 7 of the 24 salespeople mentioned the ban, but only 2 of them were correct about it. 3 mentioned slow-release fertilizer, but again, only 2 of the 3 were correct when they described the slow-release fertilizer. 1 mentioned no phosphorus rules and the need for a soil test, only 1 of the 24. And there was only 1 sign posted, which is particularly interesting because Martin County requires by law that a sign be posted in Martin County explaining that there are fertilizer ordinances. These are the messaging we're doing right now. We've got rack cards. I'm going to pass them around that are going to be hung on the fertilizer racks. If I can pass these one way and the other. Christina, can you pass them? Thank you. And then you can read the rack cards. But we're trying to, again, overcome the barrier of how do I calculate if it's 50% slow release? And these are our partners. So join the flock. Thank you for having me today. Actually, I can't believe I got through that in 10 minutes. I have a minute if you want to go back and I can one of the slides. But it's been kind of a whirlwind because we got started about 18 months ago and we felt frantic, like we need to get people knowledgeable about these ordinances. It's not enough to just pass an ordinance and assume the job is done. If people don't know it exists and they're not understanding how to comply, then they're not able to. Then you're not getting accomplished what the ordinance's intention was.
Okay, questions for clarification?
Yeah.
Yes. You had mentioned the poor signage down in, was it Martin County at the stores, where there's an ordinance requiring them to even have signage. What kind of help or lack thereof are you getting from the retail industry in facilitating this kind of change? I suspect a landscape technician is just an hourly employee who is just taught what his superiors taught him, and there might not be a whole lot of education coming from the business side of fertilizer sales to the general public. What can you tell us about your efforts to reach out to them to help you?
So we have reached out to Home Depot, and they're in an attempt to get like their distribution manager for the entire region to come on board, so we wouldn't have to go to each store individually, and they have been receptive. So what we asked was, can we put these rack cards in your stores? What we want to ask next, once we start to get a better relationship with the big box stores, is can we create a video that you can use to train your personnel? We think that a 2 or 3 minute or a brief video that could be utilized as part of the regular personnel training procedure, which a lot of training that they do is done through videos or online, web-based videos, that might be helpful. So we see that there's a gap there, that there's a big gap between headquarters and the person that's going to walk or not walk up to you when you go into the store to buy a bag of fertilizer, that person is going to be limited in their understanding of the ordinance themselves. So the rack cards are one thing that just having it there, the person that works there is going to read it hopefully and understand and remind themselves. The other thing is I've wondered, in looking at the results of these surveys, if the salesperson really doesn't know about the ordinance or if they really need to sell fertilizer, right? So they're kind of torn between their salesman persona and their need to really tell people you're not supposed to be buying a product like that right now. So there's a barrier in that there needs to be more compliant products so that stores don't have to feel like they're giving up their sales of the products that they need to do. And that's happening also. I mean, when Scotts starts really advertising the good new, summer-friendly products that they have on the shelves, things are moving in the right direction because they're a big provider to a lot of these stores. So we were interested in, we couldn't have the volunteers that were our citizen scientists going to every single bag and calculating the 50% slow release. That was too much to ask. So what we just asked them to do was look for bags that were advertising themselves as summer compliant or no nitrogen or 50% slow release. Because that is, these people in the retail stores, their ultimate goal is the bottom line. They need to sell products. So when the product becomes available, then there's no longer that conflict between the salesman thinking, yeah, there's an ordinance that tells me that he shouldn't buy that, but I need to sell my fertilizer.
It's not an entirely new concept to get the big box retail stores in line with the products they're selling. Mm-hmm. I actually worked for several years with the EPA on drinking water safety standards, and Home Depot and all the big box stores, not to pick one out of a group of many, sold products that weren't compliant with the Safe Drinking Water Act for years. It wasn't until regulatory processes were developed before the box stores got in line, because they're driven by a profit motive, and I think it would take something of that level to really get the big box stores in line with developing fertilizer standards.
Okay, questions for clarification, John?
I'm confused. You're talking about a summer fertilizer from Scotts. It was my understanding, please correct me, that June 1 you cannot apply fertilizer on your residential yards in Brevard County legally. Is that correct? No fertilizer.
You can't apply nitrogen.
Okay. No nitrogen, which all the fertilizers have nitrogen.
And you can't apply phosphorus at all. No, all fertilizers do not have.
You can apply iron.
You can apply other things.
Mineral supplements.
Okay, but no nitrogen and no phosphorus from June 1st through the end of the hurricane season, essentially.
That's correct.
Okay, so while it's not required in Brevard County, signage to that effect in the retailers would essentially stop the sale if we didn't buy it from a business standpoint, big box store, I don't need all that square footage tied up with fertilizer. I'll put it somewhere else and I'll sell something more profitable. That might be an approach. Essentially, we need to boycott the purchase because we're not supposed to be buying it. Am I on the right track?
I'm not sure what the question is. So I think putting signs in the retail stores at point of sale saying that this product is not compliant would be great. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and just kind of a question relative to what David was saying, but most of these businesses, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, Ace, they have environmental management systems. They might even be certified to the ISO 14001 standard. So they're supposed to be doing things that are environmentally friendly, developing environmental management plans on an annual basis and checking that. So it seems like if we could join, make these part of their environmental management plans, they might get some more effort and to implement just what you've been talking about, Leesa.
Hopefully, so we are getting response from Home Depot. They were our first, and I'm not picking on them. They just happen to be the first big box store that responded. That they're willing to help, at least with the rack card. So that's the first point of entry. So it's the beginning of a long conversation, I hope.
Okay.
Because we definitely need to move in that direction.
Courtney.
I just wanted to comment that Indian Harbor Beach's city manager, Mark Ryan, was successful in getting their Lowe's to put signage out in front of their fertilizer, describing the ordinance. So I think it's just really a question of asking. I think if we just asked, they'd probably do it.
And we will. So the survey that I described is ongoing. So the volunteers that we have that are the secret shopper citizen scientists are going to go to the stores, not just Lowe's, to all the stores in at least Brevard and Martin and ask next, can we put up signs during the summer ban?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.